are.
Here we are, episode 739. Hi, Sarah.
And we're feeling fine.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I did it. I don't even care.
That's all right. I'll let it go. How are you?
I'm doing great, man.
Really?
Yeah. I'm feeling here. Okay.
You are feeling
Here's
fine.
what I decided.
Okay.
I need a new hobby.
Oh, I
know
feel
that
like you
sounds-
already have too many, but okay.
I know, but I don't really have right now. I shouldn't say that I need a new hobby. Maybe I need to re-engage in a hobby that is just for me.
Oh.
Or like because
You like...
I'm just
Why?
thirsty for that.
Yeah.
Because like Eli keeps trying to talk me into mountain biking, which I am not going to do.
He needs to let that go.
I know I keep like hinting at it, but I am good. We did make a bet. We were talking about going on a trip to like back to Croatia because we loved it so much, like that area, and like maybe like staying on a boat with a group and like we'll rent a boat for a week. It'll be super fun. And he was talking about swimming and he was getting all braggy and he's like, oh yeah, I could beat you. And I was like, oh,
big mistake.
Yeah. Huge mistake. I was like, you really think that you could beat me? And I said, okay, let's do a mile swim. You really think in a mile swim you could beat me? And we were with a group of people and even they were like, I'm going to put my money on Sarah just based on how she's answering these questions right now, or responding right now. And so I told him, I was so confident. I'm like, I will beat you so bad in an open water, in the ocean, mile-long swim. You're fucking dead.
Yeah, it's embarrassing already.
Embarrassing. Women always outswim men in long-distance swimming competitions.
Remember when you told me that humans could outrun a horse if the race was long enough? It's like that. Yeah, you're right.
I'm correct.
Yeah.
So this is correct. That's why I made it a mile, because I'm like, oh, you'll beat me 2 laps in a pool, no problem. But we go 100 laps, you're going to start to get a little tired. And your girl's going to be just fine. I'm super buoyant over here.
Plantar fasciitis is not a problem in the water.
Not a problem in the water. Yes, I can go for miles. So I told him I was so confident that if I lost, I would buy a mountain bike.
Okay. Well, that is a bet she will never have to fulfill.
Right. So that is the only time I will ever be purchasing a mountain bike is if I lose this.
What happens if he...
I'm not. I haven't decided yet.
Loses.
I know. Okay. I'm thinking.
You're thinking about it.
I am thinking.
All right. We'll put our heads together.
So we were talking about like this whole, and we've been like doing all these outdoor things, and I love camping. That's like totally my deal, and I love paddleboarding. There are things that I do that are very fun, but there are all things that require a lot of like work to go do it, or another person.
Saying.
It's too much. I need like a hobby that I could just go.
Yeah, you need restoration. You want to feel soothed and restored. After.
And I'm just kind of like in a hobby. Rut.
What about? I've always tried to lure you back into crafting, but maybe that's stressful too.
No, I'm into that, but the problem is I make it and then I want to do something with it and put it like hanging up in the house.
Yeah.
But now I got plans for that, and So I'm thinking here's what my instincts are telling me, but my pocketbook is telling me otherwise. Horses.
It's like your destiny.
I know. And we like drove by so many horses this weekend. And let me tell you, it was all I could do because Eli, one time we were driving, was like, wow, you really are the girl who's like, or horses or like, whatever we talked about on the podcast. And now I like recognize when I have the impulse. I'm like, I didn't shout out horses like 30 times on this drive. So like, I'm really doing a good job of controlling myself, but I need to put this energy somewhere. Yeah. And so I'm thinking maybe horses. I don't know, but how, like, what do I do? What is like,
right. Well, there's
too expensive.
places you
I can't
can
like own
go
a horse.
for
I can't buy a
equine
horse.
therapy. I feel like you're wanting like the equivalent of equine therapy.
I just want to like
you want to go for a little trot or something.
I want to just like feed
Brush
it an
their
apple.
mane.
Yeah. Or like we were on a hike that took us past this like field, an area where all these cows were grazing, and I was trying so hard to get the cows to come over to me and talk to me.
That.
And I had all of their attention.
Oh yeah.
Like they all were like, or like looking at me. Some of them stood up and some of them were like, what's up? And I was like, come on, I'll pet you. I'll give you rubs behind. I love the cows are like so fun to pet. They're like giant dogs. In Costa Rica, they're so cuddly. And like we had some at my mom's house where we just feed like all of our like melon rinds and watermelon pizza too. They love that shit. And they're so cuddly. They'll come right up to you and like nuzzle with you. I love them.
Well, why don't they want to snuggle here in the U.S.
Well,
of A?
they did not. They were like,
They're probably afraid you're going to slaughter it and make it a hamburger.
So like, what do I do to like? I need like to be like farmy.
Mm-hmm. You know how they
Maybe
say
volunteer?
you shouldn't own a boat. You should find someone who owns a boat and be their friend.
Yeah.
So then you can enjoy the boat without buying it. It's like that.
Okay. So I got to like find a farm owner or a horse person.
Yeah. Well, remember when we went to visit that farm here in Pittsburgh? We did a tour, but it was just me and my family, nobody else. I just asked and they said yes.
Oh.
And it was because it was for Link because he loves sheep, you know?
Yes.
So I think that farmers are generally very into this sort of thing. Because they get to show you, and then we made a donation to be nice, but like you don't have to.
I'll do that. I'll donate.
Yeah.
I'm super into this. Okay.
I think that would be so nice for you.
Pet a cow, pet a horse.
Is this because you are going through bow withdrawals too? Maybe.
Probably. Oh my God.
I betcha.
Don't say it. I'll cry.
Oh God.
Yes.
No, don't. Yeah. I can see why it does leave a void, I'm sure.
Yeah. I'm like, I need to pet an animal that will unconditionally love me back for 5 to 10 minutes.
Doesn't judge. Yeah.
I mean, or it can judge. Fine. Put me through the ringer. I'm good. Animals,
you can take it?
Yeah, I can take it. You know, they're good judges. And they'll be like, oh, she's a nice one. Yeah.
Yeah, they see your heart, don't they?
Yeah.
Sarah, stop it. You're going to cry, huh?
I'm not.
No, I think that'd be really cool if you developed a relationship with a farm and, you know.
Yeah. So
then
that's
you
my
could
thing.
even say, like, I'll promote you on social. Because a lot of times they have meat that they want to and fruit and veggies.
I will love a cow and then buy it.
Well, I'm sorry, but that's the nature of farming.
Circle of life. Right?
Yeah, it really is.
Cycle of life or whatever it is. Both makes sense. Anyways.
And they probably grow wheat and then make it into wild grain bread.
The delicious ones that are like, I don't know, are they
the
like saying like lovely things to each little grain of wheat? Because that's what it feels like. I went to a bakery recently and I tried some of their bread and Eli and I were like,
yeah, your standards are too high now.
They are. We were, and so we like, cause we were like camping and so we were like at a farmer's market and we got some. And this morning Eli was like, you want some mediocre bread? And I was like, no.
Awful.
And I have my wild grain box arriving in 2 days. So I luckily don't have to be eating mediocre. Yes. I do not have to be eating mediocre bread for much longer.
No. And you don't have to either because wild grain is delivered to your door, frozen. You put it in your freezer. And then whenever you're ready, you get it out and you bake it. And it tastes like fresh bakery bread, but not duds like Sarah had. And this is pasta, desserts. They have, I even got macarons.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Macaroons or
I feel like I always get it wrong. But it's the colored pretty ones.
Oh, that's the French fancy
macarons.
ones. Macarons.
Yeah. And they have croissants and just everything. And it's so good. I've never had anything that was like, oh, this is not great.
Never.
It's always 10 out of 10.
Breakfast, lunch, dinner, check. And dessert.
And it's easy on your tummy. They do special, wonderful things to it. I don't know what, but it's great.
Slow fermentation.
That's it. Slow fermentation.
Yep.
And for a limited time, you get $30 off your first box, plus free croissants in every box when you go to wildgrain.com/braincandy to start your subscription. You heard me. Free croissants in every box and $30 off your first box when you go to wildgrain.com/braincandy. That's wildgrain.com/braincandy, or you can use promo code braincandy at checkout.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm hungry.
I have great news.
Oh, tell me.
I got my mammogram.
Yes.
Health. If you had listened to a previous episode, I talked about my fears about getting this done. Number one, because it feels like I heard a lot of horror stories and people sort of like talking about how terrible it is. And also because when you have implants, it just feels wrong.
Ooh, yeah, it just feels like you're going to explode those puppies, I would
Yes,
imagine.
and
Like,
that would
come
be
on.
messy.
Oh,
and-
my God. Nerve-wracking. Please, every single time I go get any sort of medical testing done, there's a level of anxiety and worry and like,
Yeah.
you don't know. And then I feel the same way when I go get take my car to a mechanic. I'm like holding my breath until they give me the report.
What's the damage?
Yeah, right.
Yes. It's a layered sort of anxiety.
Yes.
And then you got to wait for the results and whatever. Okay. So I was nervous, but then I said to Sarah, like, I got embarrassed about it myself. I thought, Susan Louise, you are a tough broad.
Yeah.
Get over it and, suck it up and get your damn ma'am.
Get the damn ma'am.
And
Put that on a bumper sticker. That's great.
I did. And here's what I want to say. And I said this to my technician, Carly. Shout out to Carly.
Shout out to Carly. Woo.
Basically, mammograms need a new publicist.
Okay.
It was absolutely no big whoop.
Okay. We need to talk. This is very important to talk about.
It
I had no idea.
Sarah.
It must be they must have updated things, or they must
said
have
that.
Okay, this is
She
good
said,
to know.
like, previous
we need to promote
generations.
the changes that are happening.
The changes came about because the MRI or the imaging, the whatever it is,
Yes.
has improved so much that they don't have to squish them so much. And so, honest to God,
Yeah.
I would rather do a mammogram than get my dentist teeth cleaned, like just and whatever they call it,
Yeah.
routine
Dental cleaning. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is less painful.
Oh, and that's one of my favorite things.
So you're gonna probably just get an
Oh my God,
a
fill
big
me up. Yes. Give these babies some attention.
And if you don't have implants, you have even less of a problem because I had to do 4 images. You regular people only do 2.
Okay.
I am telling you, out of 1 to 10, it was a 1.
Oh my
in terms
gosh,
of pain.
people, go get a mammogram right now. No problem. If there's anything holding you back and you're thinking, oh, I don't want to because I have that idea of like my breast being smashed between 2 panes of glass or whatever, like, chill.
Yeah, because I was telling Lincoln about it, and he was trying to understand what they do, and I'm like, it's like a panini press for your boobs. And that is what it is, but it doesn't hurt. And before she began, she said, have you ever had the MRI version of the mammogram? And I said, no, I wish. And she was like, no, you don't. It takes an hour and a half.
Oh.
And you have to lay on a table on your stomach with your boobs hanging through a hole.
That's really funny.
So she's like, trust me, this is much better than that. Because that's the one that I thought, well, that sounds better. It's not squishing anything. Well, who cares if you got to lay there that long?
Yeah, I can't do anything for that long.
And except hike. You just told me earlier about an 11-mile hike that I'm still like reeling from. But the best part of all is that they have nothing wrong with them.
That's the best.
I got the results.
I'm so glad.
And she told me to expect bad news because she said the first time they don't have like a baseline picture.
Yeah, so they
often
don't know. They're
you have to
looking.
go back.
Everything is
But I
raises
didn't have
awareness
to go back.
until you. Okay,
Ship
that's
shape in there.
fantastic.
It is.
I'm so glad.
happy.
They look good and they're healthy.
That's right. It's not just
Woo!
beautiful. They're
That's
also
right.
in ship-shop, tip-top shape. Okay.
Yes.
Moving on. Okay, this
Get
is a
those
funny
tests. Get that information.
one. For real.
It feels good once you have it, and then you
Anxiety
feel like
is for
a
the
real
birds.
grown up when you like get stuff like that done.
Yeah. Get your damn ma'am.
Get the damn man.
Okay, this is a funny story because I want to talk about aliens, okay?
Oh, I'm ready.
I'm like on an alien kick, and I'm so sorry for ever judging you about the alien pyramid thing.
Oh,
They probably did build them. I'm pretty sure they did.
I am here for this. This
Yeah.
is wow. This is the best.
I got it wrong.
What a good day.
What a good day. Okay, I had the funniest conversation though because we the congressional whistleblower guy
Yes.
coming forward saying they have a spaceship and they have the pilot,
Yes.
aka a Martian or whatevs. And so my mom was over last night and I go, "Hey, Peg, what do you think about those aliens?" And she goes, "They're too close for comfort. That's what I think." And I'm like, "How so?" And
Go on.
She goes, "Well, they're living in the hotel next to my church."
Okay. I didn't know we meant like that. Okay. Here we are. All right. So I did ask Eli this. I was like, what are the religious people going to do when we now have this information that so strongly like butts up against everything that, well, here's your answer.
Well, okay. So I was dying laughing and I was like, okay, she's talking about immigrants and I'm talking about aliens. But I said, okay, but
no, I didn't even put that together. I thought you actually meant she thought there were aliens like
no, she thinks
Third
there's
Rock
like
from
Mexicans
the Sun
or
style. Oh wow.
Coneheads.
Oh, I thought that's what I was going with. I was like, this is Coneheads, Third Rock from the Sun, like they're living next door. Oh no, it's worse. Oh,
Yeah, she meant
I don't know
immigrants.
if that makes me like
know.
ignorant or like optimistic, like
Yeah.
giving people the benefit of the doubt that they wouldn't think that.
You
I
thought
don't
she was
know.
crazy, not
Yeah.
a bigot.
Correct. Correct.
No, it was okay at the end. And I said, "Mom, I mean like, Martians." And then I said, "So like, what do you think about those guys?" And she was like, "Oh, well, they are real." I mean, and I was surprised she said that, to be honest with you, because a lot of people that believe in like
Right.
the literal creation story and stuff really don't know what to do with aliens. And so they kind of just think that's ridiculous.
They don't know what to do with dinosaur bones, please.
Yeah, it really throws a wrench into that worldview. So, any hoodles, I just love that story.
Yeah,
But
science usually throws a wrench.
that's true. I've always wanted to go to that
Creation
museum.
Yes.
Because they
theme
have
park.
like an exhibit at the museum that has dinosaurs with saddles.
Yes.
Yes.
I was like, you could ride the dinosaurs. Yes.
Yes.
Could you imagine dinosaurs with saddles?
I think it's
I
in
love
Ohio.
that they think a saddle came first, because I remember we were talking about which came first, the Swiss Army knife or the paper clip, like in previous episodes, and both of those were invented in like the 1900s. So I don't know when they think these saddles on dinosaurs were invented.
Yeah.
But,
Okay, sorry, I had to wet my whistle. All right. Okay, but, because of that whistleblower, which that was so compelling to watch, and it was so like, I think it was just a watershed moment, I'm sure. But I was watching an Unsolved Mysteries episode, 3rd season, and it, I've always, they
Yes.
have a lot of them, but this one I hadn't seen. And it was describing an event in Michigan where a lot of people saw something, and then thankfully they called 911, because then we have recordings of what they were seeing, and it's corroborated but amongst various locations and people and whatever. And also, thankfully, the 911 operator called the weather tower meteorologist on a recorded line.
Smart.
And he's like, "We're getting all these calls. People think they see a UFO. Are you seeing anything on radar in this particular area?"
Oh, I get goosebumps.
And so to have the recording of that call and have the meteorologist checking his radar and then in real time sort of realizing he doesn't know what he's seeing.
What is he saying?
On
Tell
his
me.
radar, he saw like a blob that wasn't identified in a normal way. And then it would suddenly break up into 5. Right?
That is not good.
And that is also what they were seeing on land on the regular calls. And then it would be at, let's say, 5,000 feet altitude, and it would go to 55,000 in a second.
No.
And then it would go from this spot to a spot where it would have had to travel at 72,000 miles per hour.
That is way too fast for anything we know about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so then at one point he saw it hovering in this one spot, and then it would do all these things, and he was describing it. And then now this is in modern day. This originally happened in 94, but like right now he went to meet with this lady who done all this interviews with people.
Yeah.
And she said there was this couple that was on the Lake Michigan beach, and they were camping, and they saw this. And what they also saw was from Lake Michigan all the way up into the spaceship, the water from Lake Michigan was shooting up like a reverse waterfall.
Nope. Yeah, and don't you think we talk about like what aliens would go after, and it's like, oh, the largest body of water. Like, I'm interested in this.
This is what the meteorologist said. He's like, that is the largest freshwater supply in the world.
Come on!
In the planet.
That's why they would do that. Please, help. I have goosebumps. I can't take it. Hi.
Listen, I know what can help.
Help me.
Lumi.
Actually, it will control the fear sweats, because those fear sweats smell different.
Ooh, yeah, they don't smell good either.
That's an actual thing. There are hormones that are in your sweat when you're stressed out, when you're like the sweat before you're about to give a presentation is the stinkiest sweat there ever was ever. So
it's not good.
It's not good.
But Lumi to the rescue, because this deodorant, which I'm wearing right now, as always, the toasted coconut. What were you going to say? You
it's the best.
Something. You were like,
I feel like calling it deodorant is making people think that it's limited to just your pits.
Oh, okay, good point.
As a avid camper and person who maybe showers once every 3 days when I'm in nature and it is smelling like it, that is so fantastic to rub in between your legs, to rub wherever you may get stinky. I believe on the package it says, what do you, the directions are like, rub where you have odor and don't want it.
Yeah.
The end.
Yeah. And a lot of times there is odor in other places besides your armpits.
Yeah.
And this is great. And they do have like a stick, like a normal deodorant, but they have the cream that you could choose.
Yep.
They have wipes that are fantastic. That's what I use
when I go camping.
Yeah. You can just use those babies on anything. And this blocks odor all day, controls odor for 72 hours. So it really is. It's aluminum free.
I wish there were a way for me to, like when I take video or like I post stories on Instagram where I'm talking about, I know where I'm like, I wish you guys could smell what it smells like before and what it smells like after. And I do understand that you could put deodorant on before you smell, and then you can prevent the smell. So I know
But Sarah never learns.
No, I don't. So it will get rid of the smell and not just mask it. Like it's like little things that like eat the stinky bacteria. There you go.
Yeah, it's like magic. And they have a special offer for our listeners. New customers get $5 off a Lumi starter pack with code BrainCandy5 at LumiDeodorant.com. That equates to over 40% off your starter pack when you visit LumiDeodorant.com and use code BrainCandy5. I need to make sure that's right on the website too. I'm going to check that.
I'm going to blow my nose.
All right. Fabulous.
I just went to trivia last night, and one of the questions was this anagram is the same as like the act that prevented the person or that like allowed the person to talk about the alien stuff, and the answer was whistleblower, and the anagram was wow, ET be shrill. So that's cool.
ETB what?
Shrill. I think it's something
shrill.
Like that. Yeah, something like that.
Gosh.
ETB shrill, like wow, ETB shrill. Or
Did you get it right?
No, because I in a panicky moment, I thought an anagram was like each letter represents something. So I was like WOW, something of war. I was like thinking
an acronym.
Yes, I mixed up anagrams and acronyms.
Hey, listen. You know, you were under a lot of pressure.
I was, and we did very well. We got like 3rd place out of 6. It was just me and my friend.
So my point is that just watching that episode and just having been thinking about it since the whistleblower came forward, it just feels like it's freaking me out, basically, because I feel like maybe
what are you afraid of?
Maybe we're like an experiment.
I mean, we probably are, but here's the good news: it's like this isn't new. I feel like time for humans is pretty quick. Like our
We haven't
time,
been around
it's all
that long, you mean?
relative. Yeah, we haven't been around that long. You know, this could all be relative. Like they could have been here for a long time. You know, researching us and they clearly aren't a threat, and nobody's like, you know, take me to your leader. Well, maybe they did that. I don't know, but like nobody's
Yeah,
like
the
declaring
meteorologist
war.
was like, I feel like they were trying to tell me something because they were doing like certain patterns and like he thought they.
Yeah, it's like I feel like they're trying. This
What are they
seems
trying
friendly.
to tell us though?
They're trying to communicate. Don't you think that if we met another life form, another thing, that we would like want to exchange? Listen, if you haven't read Project Hail Mary, you need to read. Don't read it. Listen to it on Audible. It's the freaking best that there ever was. It's so good, and it's a very good example of how civilizations can team up to solve a problem. Different.
What if like my rock bottom comes when I just break down and watch Interstellar and like,
My God, I wish.
like I'm just gonna have to read Project Hail Mary
God.
and watch Interstellar.
You do. Somebody was talking to me about a scene from Interstellar the other day, and I was just like thinking the whole time, like, God,
Susie
would love that scene. I was like, I don't even want to tell you about it, because if I told you,
Don't.
you'd be like, wow, that sounds like, how could somebody grapple with that? Like, oh, it's so deep. And like, I sat there when it was done, just staring at the TV with like my hands on my forehead.
Oh my
like,
God. I have got to
what
see
do I
this
do
movie.
now? Like, and then I Googled what to watch after Interstellar, because I was like, I need to know what I do with my life now.
And they were
I did the
basically
same
like
thing with
nothing.
Project Hail Mary. So there you go.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like
But this is
Okay.
one of my favorite bits.
I know I can't let go of the bit.
All for the sake of comedy. This is your episode. I've been talking this whole time about
No,
God knows what.
You shush. Okay.
Aliens.
Okay. Do you want to talk about swallowing spiders in your sleep or
Oh.
switched at birth story?
Oh, switch to birth story.
I know, good choice. That
Yes.
was such a good choice, Sarah.
Yeah. I want
Okay, I love a good switch at birth.
That one.
You're already into it.
Because just like the thought, and then you think like, because sometimes I see babies, I'm like,
Something ain't right.
who does that even look like? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Would I even recognize it? Like, I don't know. I'm like,
Does it give you peace knowing that you look like identical to both of your parents somehow?
I mean, identical, and like
It's
my
so
brothers
weird.
too. Like, we
Yeah.
look. It's silly. Yeah.
Okay, well,
little
in
bit
the
of
New York
peace.
Times, there was this awesome article, and it was about two men that were switched at birth, and I think they are either 57 or 67, but they're old enough where you've lived a whole life thinking you're one thing,
Got it.
and then you find out you're not.
Yes.
And they, of course, found out because of the genealogy DNA tests that people take that are exposing all kinds of secrets and lies and accidents and whatever.
Yep.
And okay, what made this story particularly compelling was that one of them grew up thinking they were a Croatian Jew,
That.
and then the other one grew up thinking they were indigenous, Canadian indigenous person.
Huh.
And so, like, the one experienced like suffering because of his alleged native heritage,
Yeah.
but he wasn't even that. And then the
Wow.
other one, he actually had suffering because he didn't have a great family.
Mm-hmm.
And so both of them say now they wish they didn't have found out. Like, it's sort of been traumatic.
Yeah, that's why I feel like these things. What is the most difficult for people is that cognitive dissonance, like that the idea of who we are, or the idea of what we believe to be true, crashing up against what actually is true, and that those things don't match. Like our mind and reality like doesn't fit who we think we are. It pushes back like identity, everything. And it makes you question so much. Mm-hmm. And so you have to just like, it's better to just accept something that is not real if it makes your brain feel okay, makes everything else make sense.
It seems like it would feel sort of like almost like the quantum leap thing. Because even though they didn't make a choice that changed their life, someone else did.
Right. Absolutely.
And that, I think the one that had a really nice upbringing, he feels guilty because that was the upbringing meant for the other guy who had a terrible.
Oh, no. Yeah, like a survivor's guilt kind of thing. Yeah. Wow. That's interesting.
And then the one that grew up Jewish is now applying for like the benefits of being a native indigenous person. And that kind of feels a little strange, but he's like, listen, if I can help my grandkids, why wouldn't I? And I'm entitled to it. But it's just sort of like weird because he didn't know that.
This is what, I think it's so important to talk to kids about where they come from. And I think there was like this, before genealogy reports and all this kind of stuff and the access to I don't know, finding out who you are and DNA searches online and stuff like that. There was this belief of like, oh, we just won't tell them. They'll just believe that they're part of the family and that nobody will ask any questions. But I bet if they didn't say anything, like if those two like never found out, I guarantee you that at some point in their life, they had a feeling of, I don't feel connected to this, or I feel like different than everybody else. And that is, I mean, you don't want that either. Mm-hmm. So the way to avoid that is to talk about it from the beginning. Like I feel like that with adoptions. I feel like that with, in vitro, like for like anything that was like surrogacy, like children, like talking about. When I hear from children who were adopted or adults that that have been adopted, and the ones who had families that were really open and said like, "Yep, I wasn't able to have kids, but I picked you, and I loved you, and you are the one that made us a family," and blah 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 blah. Those kids are like, I feel better about that. There's an adjustment that's different.
I just wonder though, because like you do hear that a lot of someone saying like, I always knew there was, I didn't quite fit in and whatever. Do you think though that there's an element of that in everybody? That if you found out something later, you'd think, yeah, I guess I did kind of have moments where, because I almost feel like it's just sort of part of life, but maybe not.
I think in a different way.
Yeah,
and I think sometimes when other people know, but the child doesn't, that's what they pick up on. Mm-hmm. That they're treated different than
that
maybe.
Is just toxic.
Yeah, I think, and there have been studies on this of how like parents treat stepchildren different than their own children, even if they were grown to, like people do things that are so subtle and so like these little micro, not aggressions, but kind of in a way, behaviors, we'll call them.
Yeah.
That maybe
are harmful.
Yeah. That people aren't even aware of them doing. That when someone is biologically related to us is, I don't know, it's, I don't even know if people are aware of it, but not talking about it. I have yet to see a situation where secret keeping has like bettered the situation.
Honestly, I hate it so much.
I have not seen that, except if it's like, does my ass look big in this? Unless I want you to say, yes, my ass looks huge and fantastic, which is what I'm going for these days. So if I'm like, does my ass look big in this? You better say, yeah, it does.
I'll tell you what I'm telling the truth about all the time, and that is how thankful I am for Pair Eyewear and its amazing powers to help me see again.
And be super cute and funky.
And yes, and be fashionable and affordable. Because Pair Eyewear allows you to do the digital try-on of the glasses.
Yes. And man, it's a good one.
Yeah, it doesn't
Sometimes
look ridiculous.
it's like, what are we doing here?
Right. You actually can tell how you'd look in the frames, and you get to pick them, and they're very affordable, like I said. And then you can get the clip-on styles that allow you to have different colors, or sunglasses that just pop right on magnetically.
Like you can't even tell that they just like pop, boop, like snap right on. Mm-hmm. New color. These are great for like, I feel like if you're a teacher or you work in anything where,
like nursing, I think. Too,
yes, totally.
You have to
wear
make
like the
small
uniform.
talk.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was thinking the same thing. Like my dental hygienist would totally be. We're like really dental friendly this episode. We're talking a lot about
always,
dentists.
To be honest.
Always. Yeah.
Yeah. Like anywhere where you have talk about holidays and the weather and all that jazz. People love commenting on eyewear. I don't know why.
Yes, exactly.
But they have a whole collection of styles. It's endless how many different styles they have that you can get. And so you could get like a classic frame and then get the different fun.
And even sunglasses.
Elevate your summer looks. Get 15% off your first pair when you go to paireyewear.com/braincandy. That's pair, PAIR, eyewear.com/braincandy. Elevate every season's looks. That's what I'm saying. Yes. Okay. Speaking of like the big butt thing, I can't remember which celebrity it was because it was one I didn't know. It must be for the younger generation. Okay. But this woman, famous lady, posted like screenshots of a conversation she had with her ex. They were together. It must have been.
Yeah, I saw this. And he was like talking about how she's gained weight and
she asked him, do you think I look different or something like, do I look fat in these jeans? Like that kind of question. And then he told the truth. And she actually posted those screenshots to like make him out like he's a terrible partner. But ma'am, you asked.
Right.
You asked your ass.
Yeah, this sounds like communication troubles and perfect stuff to talk about in therapy.
It does, because
give him my number.
If you do not, I don't blame you for not wanting to know the answer to that question, like the truth.
Yeah.
But you can't put someone in that
No,
position.
Can't bait somebody and then be like, what? And it's probably coming from a supportive, good place.
I was on that guy's side. I really was. I was like,
yeah.
I mean, some of us don't lie very well. And I'm telling the truth if somebody asked me that. You could do it in a nice way.
Yeah, for sure.
And be like, those jeans they must have been made for somebody else because they are not doing you justice. You could say something like that. Oh,
that's very good.
Because a lot of times that's the truth. It's about like the cut or whatever.
Yeah, it'll be like, those aren't doing you any favors.
Yeah. You are way hotter than those jeans are allowing.
Yes.
Okay, moving on.
Like that.
Okay.
You're definitely a good person to ask for advice on, because you'll give it to you straight but nice.
Well, yeah, because I wouldn't want to wear something that looked like garbage.
Right.
I think I talked about this in our dog club meeting, but I'm just going to say it here too. I do recommend the Jake Paul documentary.
Oh, yes. It's now coming up in my, you should watch this.
It's one of the Untold series, which I love. They're all about sports, but they're so beautiful. And this one I wouldn't call beautiful, but it was interesting just because YouTuber turned professional boxer is strange.
Yes.
And
it almost feels like a gimmicky novelty. Yes. Symbolic.
Because it's a new era. It's a new time.
It's very strange.
So in your mind, this feels like what? Barnum and Bailey type?
It feels more like like the Colosseum. Like Roman, like everybody gathered around to watch and now we've had the person who maybe was like the court jester or like the fool be like, well, I'm going to train and like, I don't know. Like now he's like jousting with the knights or what? I don't know. I'm confusing a lot of time periods here. I do understand that there's no jousting in the Colosseum, but
okay, yeah. So it feels like the new version of an old thing.
Yeah. Well, there are often signs of like I don't know, maybe the downfall of a civilization, and one is the glorification of violence. And I feel like that is what we see. and gets to go from reality star to somebody who is famous for the glorification of violence seems like a move towards something not good as a society.
All right. What I found interesting about his story, though, was the transparency about the childhood in which he grew up, where his dad was clearly abusive.
Yeah.
And, or as the brother called it, not quite illegal or something like that, like, or not quite legal or something.
Oh.
And,
Yeah.
so it seems to me, I'm not Freud over here, but it seems to me these boys, Logan and Jake Paul.
Oh, somebody beat them up and now they're beating somebody up.
Yeah, that they've learned violence as like
Yeah.
an expression and
Or
part of
a
their...
means to gain power.
Oh, yeah, that. And probably something they're quite comfortable with in a sense.
Yes.
Because it's familiar.
Yep.
And they kind of, even with the YouTube stuff, grew up in this mode of like creating a spectacle to get attention because probably they weren't getting it from the people that ought to have been giving it to them.
100%. Oh my God.
It's really like deep because of all the cultural components and then the familial stuff. And then they were competitive with each other and they just kept ratcheting it up on YouTube until like they were lighting crap on fire and going to see dead bodies in Japan. And
it's not good.
it's so toxic. On the flip side, if you're going to be that kind of guy, maybe channeling it into a sport that's regulated and whatever is not a bad idea.
The thing with that is that doesn't act. People think that
it's not an outlet.
It's not. Violence only
it's like
creates
gas on the
more
fire.
violence. Yeah. Where like, oh, I'm really mad about this. Let me go punch it out. It doesn't work in the same way that we think it does.
Oh,
that it's going to be like it
normalizes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then now that as a problem solving technique to reduce stress
and gain power.
And
we see
gain
this
power
with
bleeds
relationships.
into other areas of their life.
Yeah.
Domestic violence, all that kind of stuff.
And I don't think the concussions help either.
No, CTE is not exactly like,
Yeah. But it is
like
something that's a
throwing
part of
kerosene
our
on fire.
culture. I mean,
Right.
boxing is still a popular and enduring sport that I do not understand.
No.
Okay.
Please, I know people are going to hate this, but I'm barely understanding football. Like, it causes brain damage.
And
We're all
hockey.
going to cheer for it. Okay, maybe we invent some new sports. I don't know.
Well, Sweden tried and I poo-pooed that.
What did they try to do?
Sex.
Oh. They didn't invent that as a new sport. They just relabeled it.
Well, the sport component of it.
I mean, sure, okay.
It was so funny, though, I will say, when I posted that clip on TikTok, I don't know how, but at some point it went into like men were seeing it.
Yes.
And
I
it
love
ended
this.
up being our most successful clip of all time because all these guys were like, it's our time to shine, boys, in the comments, like being like, where did our tryouts?
I totally missed this. How did I miss our most viral TikTok?
It
This is
went
hilarious.
gangbusters because these guys were being very
Gangbusters.
funny.
You have to use that word.
They were annoyed because in the clip, I'm like being like, stop being weird, stop being inappropriate. But if they listen to the episode, I come around on the subject.
Oh, you do?
But they
is
were just
great.
like, a couple of them were like, there's nothing weird about it unless you're ashamed of your body.
Oh, God. Please.
Okay, any hoodles.
That's great.
I do recommend that documentary. When you brought up gladiatorial, I thought I ought to tell you, we have an interview in this episode.
Oh, I've been very much looking forward to this.
And I know people are like, no, Susie, stop with your interviews.
Keep with your interview. They're very good.
I only pepper them in when I really need you to hear it. Like Rainn Wilson.
Yes,
I couldn't keep that
so
from you.
good. That was so good.
But I interviewed Danny Lee Clark from American Gladiators, Nitro, AKA. And I was enamored with him in the documentary, the Netflix one, because he was very open about the trauma he endured as a child and how he learned that, you know, boys don't cry. And he says in the documentary that after years and years of therapy, he now knows, well, boys might not cry, but men do.
Oh,
wasn't that great? I was like, oh, that's gold, Jerry, gold. Yeah, because I mean, for an American Gladiator to sit there and talk about all the craziness and the drugs and the hooligans and the shenanigans, and then to be like, okay, but you should go to therapy and you should let it out and you should grow, and it's so good. And he sort of devoted his post-Gladiator life to teaching that message that, like, you can be strong, and part of that means to be vulnerable. Yes. What a great lesson.
I love this.
If you haven't watched Muscles and Mayhem on Netflix, he was the one that spearheaded that. He was part of the development of it, and I think he's really proud that people are watching it and that people are talking about the show again, since they did get ripped off, like in merchandising and stuff.
Yeah.
I think this feels like a little bit of justice, maybe,
and maybe a reminder of how relevant and well known they were.
Yeah,
they
were cultural icons.
Yes, absolutely. They like household names.
I'll tell you what else should be a household name, and that's AG1. Am I right?
Delicious. Not only delicious, but because let me tell you, sometimes it is
gross. Yeah. I've been down that road.
Yes.
No, thank you.
Yes. So I want to get my vitamins, my nutrients, everything I need that like starts me out right. And it's like the perfect way to start the day. I've developed a actual routine now.
This is like monumental.
And then I also feel really like on the ball and extra gloaty. I don't know what this is, like proud of myself when I can make it, because Eli and I always, do it together. So when I make Eli's and I'm like, your green drink is on the counter, like,
right. Like you've done it. You could actually not do anything else that day and you've still accomplished something.
Yep.
It is just what your body needs. 75 high quality vitamins, probiotics, and whole
75
food sourced ingredients. How about that? AG1's not joking around. If you're looking for a simpler, effective investment for your health, try AG1 and get 5 free AG1 travel packs, which are so handy to have, and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D with your first purchase. Go to drinkag1.com/braincandy. That's drinkag1.com/braincandy. Check it out. And I love when you folks tag us when you are having yours, because it's just fun to see that
if you are a plant person and you put any sort of plant fertilizer or thing in food into your plant, give your plant any nutrients, and you are not doing the same for yourself, what the heck are you doing?
What are you doing?
I know you're listening to this because I was this person, and I know that our listeners are like me. You got to do it for you, and then do it. It's like the mask at the airplane says. It is. I'm telling you.
One of the takeaways from Pump Club for me is that you deserve to treat your body right. Your body deserves it. You deserve it.
And it's not proving anything. It's not like you get extra points if you don't. Like the people are like, oh, look at how I can just get through the day without any of that.
People brag about dumb stuff like that. Yeah. Like I only sleep 3 hours.
Right. Sleep is don't be bragging about look at how I could do everything without it. No. That's not successfully utilizing your resources.
Yeah. And that was a lesson that I thought I never heard it that way, that you deserve to get exercise and to feel good.
That was something in my family. We wear a
badge of honor.
Yes.
Yeah.
That it's oh, you went the entire day without eating lunch because you didn't take a break because you were going, gold star. No. Yes. Actually, F grade.
F. You failed.
You failed to take care of yourself. For goodness sakes.
It's so true. I could preach about it, but you get the idea.
Yeah, you do.
Anyway, and I think Danny Lee Clark would agree because
absolutely,
I love following him on Instagram. He is still so strong, so fit, and such a positive force. But as we've talked about this documentary before, what I am fascinated by is that they sort of lived what we lived with the challenge years prior in terms of compensation and rights, and then like the toll it can take on your body.
Yeah. That nobody knows about. Right.
Yeah. So I wanted to have him on to sort of like, I'm kind of like comparing notes, but just hear from his point of view what it was really like. So welcome to the show, Danny Lee Clark from American Gladiators and Muscles and Mayhem on Netflix. Danny Lee Clark, a.k.a. Nitro, a.k.a. Dreamboat Extraordinaire. I cannot believe I harassed you into coming on Brain Candy Podcast. I'm so honored.
Oh, Susie, you did not have to harass me. You asked and you beckoned. You made the call. You put it out and it's like, we've got to go do some Brain Candy. A good friend of mine, Tammy, listens to you guys as well, and she's part of your book club. So, hey to Tammy out there.
Hey, we love our Brainiac book clubbers. And we also have a documentary club, and Muscles and Mayhem is going to be our pick because I felt like when I was watching it that I was watching my own story because of Sarah and I were on the challenge on MTV and I was on Road Rules, and so much of what you experienced, it was very familiar to me in terms of the physical stuff, but also just like, it's a weird situation to be so well known, but then not be making a ton of money. And how do you feel now that people are getting a better picture of the series and what your role was on it?
I feel dirty.
You feel exposed.
Tossed aside. So, firstly, back when the show was on, it was the first show of its type, American Gladiators. It really broke new ground. Yeah. I think some of the critics back then were saying, this is going to be the end of good TV as we know it. And we ended up bringing in a whole new era of TV, like Road Rules and Ninja Warrior and all these other things kind of followed that format. And, the great thing about it, it brought a bunch of new people, some spotlight, a little fame. And, the payback then, I think we were getting $700 an episode for the first 13. But at that time, look, I had a 2-year-old kid, Tyler. I just got cut from the Rams. I needed to make money. You would have given me, $500. I would have boxed Mike Tyson. I would have easily, for $50, jujitsu'd both Elon Musk and Zuckerberg at the same time. I heard one of your earlier episodes. But I was just a guy that was, Susie, desperate to make a living. I didn't know what this thing was. So it didn't feel like, we were getting taken advantage of yet. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but don't you feel like that willingness to do whatever it takes to feed your family and all that kind of made you vulnerable to be exploited? And, the powers that be are very aware of what they're doing, don't you think?
I don't know what they think, and I don't know if they're trying to exploit people. But even if you look at social media today, people are doing more and more crazy things to try to get attention, to try to get likes. And I think it all goes back to a deeper feeling of, connection and finding a place to belong and being seen. I believe as human beings, we all have this fundamental need to be seen. And for me, it was, I think, a lot stronger of a need. I want people to see me. And I made the mistake of equating being seen and adored as being loved. The more people, clap for me, and the more they applauded, the more I thought I was loved, and it filled those empty places inside of me. It wasn't until I had everything I wanted, Susie, and I wasn't happy. And we talk about this on the Muscles and Mayhem documentary. I'm very open about it, is at the height of all the gladiator goodness and spandexian glory, when we had just sold out Madison Square Garden. We had these toys and action figures, and we were everywhere. I would still find myself on one too many mornings, waking up, high out of my mind, drunk, with just spit dribbling out of my mouth while I was lying on the floor, and I'd be weeping. It's happened like a couple times. Mm-hmm. And it was at that time I realized how sometimes obtaining the false dream of happiness can be a new awakening to something else. And it was at that time, as this big, strong, 235-pound, muscly, macho guy, it was at that time that I just had to raise my hand. And I said, look, I have everything, but it feels like nothing. And I need help. And I'm so glad back then I raised my hand to get that help and started therapy. And it's something I've been doing for the last 25 years. I even coach because, it was such a gift for me to be able to understand who I am better, to be able to pick up the hood, look underneath, so to speak, of the car and look at the motor to see what made me run. And that, I think, was a great experience about getting everything you want and thinking it's going to be the key to happiness.
Right. Because you have on paper, you have what everybody seeks. You're handsome and famous and
stop it. Stop it.
But it's true.
And I had hair then too. Huh.
And you're groupies and everybody is cheering for you, but it feels hollow in some way.
It felt amazing until it didn't.
Yeah.
I'll say anytime that someone has asked for an autograph, anytime that someone has complimented me, it always felt amazing.
Yeah.
It just didn't fill some of those places inside. And I didn't know that it didn't, you know what I mean? Until I got there. And look, it's when someone, compliments me now and I'm getting, I have tons of people sliding into my DMs.
Oh, I can imagine.
I can't believe I just said that.
Yeah, I can imagine what's going on in your DMs.
Yeah, well, I just learned that term from watching Love is Blind on Netflix. So one of the girls is like, slide into my DMs, boys. And I was like, what does that even mean? I had to get like a teenager to tell me. And now I'm the douche who's saying it.
It's a thing though, right? You start to see like people want a piece of you. And
well, it's not a piece. You know what I was really interesting to me after Muscles and Mayhem, on Netflix, was that I had tons of men and women both sliding into my DMs, and it was interesting. I had those guys, yeah, so cool, bro. I really idolize you, which is fantastic. I named my dog after you, and I only kicked it once in a while, But I also had a lot of men saying, I really appreciate your openness and your vulnerability. And interestingly enough, Susie, I had women saying the same thing. Oh my God, I appreciate that you could be that open and vulnerable.
It was really powerful.
Yeah. They say when I talk about, the lesson of, my parents divorcing and, my dad taking us away from my mother, and I'm on the plane and, I'm crying my eyes out because I'm being taken away from my mother at 4 years old. And the guy behind me in the seat says, show me your muscle, show me your muscle. So I go and I flex my little muscle as these tears are streaming down my face. And he looks at my muscle and he says, look, you got a muscle. You're a big boy, and big boys don't cry. And I talk about how I remember that throughout my life. Even when my 12-year-old, my older brother died in my arms when I was 10, he was 12. I remember that guy on that plane, Susie, and he said, big boys don't cry. So I would not let myself cry. And I ended up, in my journey, and again, this took a lot of unpacking. I ended up in my journey, putting on all this muscle, taking on steroids, doing all this stuff to put on this meat suit to protect this little boy inside who was told, to be a man, to be strong. And it wasn't until I got to be a man, what I consider a true man, did I come to the realization that big boys don't cry, but men do.
That was so good. I'm so glad you said that in there.
And I've had so many women, like I said, reaching out to me saying, I'm raising 2 young sons now. They're 15, 18 years old. We're watching your docuseries, and it's so amazing that you said that. So I can teach my sons that you can be strong, that you can be powerful, that you can kick ass, but you can also be vulnerable.
Heck yeah.
Right.
And it's not easy. And I felt like that was one of the really cool parts of the series, was that sure, there's a lot of fun stuff and it's silly and spectacle and all that jazz, but each person that's affiliated with the show has their own story and their own journey. And it's important to hear more about it, because then you're not just a character or a caricature. You're a person and you're going through stuff.
Yeah, when I pitched and sold this to Netflix, I think that's one of the things that really made them spark to this. Because look, that when you're creating something like a docuseries, if you just say, let's do a series on the American Gladiators. Okay, what's the story? You need to build a story in it. And I think you also need to have a human story as well as the spine of the story. So I pitched it as a docuseries that chronicles the rise and fall of one of the biggest shows on television and its most popular stars in the height of the golden age of network TV. And I also pitched the 90s, the nostalgia with Clinton in the White House, with Van Halen, MC Hammer ruling the airwaves, when Schwarzenegger and Stallone ruled the box office. But I also was so important to me that, because the Gladiators were these larger than life figures that people could test their mettle against, could test their athletic ability against, right? Because every town had men and women who were great athletes who didn't make pro football, who didn't make pro soccer, who was a fantastic volleyball player, but their journey ended, or a track and field athlete. There's so many people still having that fight inside of them that says, I can compete, I can do this. Gladiators gave them a chance to do that, and they win against us, right? These Greek gods. But, behind our stage personas were real people with real lives. Our stories, they didn't begin there and they didn't end there. Because if you look at the overall story, it's really about a rich cross-section of characters that reflect a comprehensive group of Americans, people of all races from all walks of life, fighting to make their own way and punch their own ticket. So now you're starting, when you're creating something, now you're starting to have a story. Oh, it's about these people. This is their journey. This is their pain to purpose story. And I felt like we needed a narrative spine to hang the story on, because what is the story besides these people and the show? So I came up with the idea, which was true. I just put it into form, that it was the idea that these little guys, the bad news bears of Hollywood, the Gladiators, even though we were big physically, we are the bad news bears of Hollywood. But I put it against the idea that when we got famous, when we tried to ask for a fair share of merchandising, not something, like out of this world, like, oh my God, we want millions. Just give us what the industry standard is. The big corporation said, no, you are not important. The show is what's important. The show is the star, not you guys. Come back to work or you're fired. So now you have a story of Davy, not a Davy versus Goliath, much like what's going on in the Writers Guild strike right now.
Totally.
The company on Netflix, as much as I love them, these companies are making a shit ton of money, but they're not sharing, in some cases, equitably with people. And I think everybody can relate to that. Treat me fairly, treat me as a human being, and do the right thing. And so, creating the docu-series, that was the idea behind it. And since I lived the story, I also knew the turning points in each episode. So what I said here, Netflix, I pitched them. They said, "Oh, we like this, great. Give us an episode breakdown." Okay, here it is. So I knew the story. I knew that after episode 1, this was going to be the line that, oh shit, it went terrible, and I didn't think the show was going to survive. After episode 2, I knew it was going to be this line. After episode 3, and so on and so on. So I think people underestimate the amount of good storytelling you have to have when you're telling something across, 5 or 6 episodes.
Right.
If not, it's a 1 hour episode of Behind the Music, which is a fantastic show.
Right.
But you have to have a narrative drive and narrative thrust. And, what were also super important to me was to make the Gladiators 2 things. One was to treat the 90s like a character. So you go back to that nostalgia. Did you feel that way?
Yes. And it was a vibe, man. Like that period of time had a very distinct flavor and you captured it.
Yeah, so that was important because when people watch this, I wanted them to be transported back to that time when gas was 90 cents a gallon. When McDonald's just debuted the McRib. Yeah, I wanted them to go back there, whether they were a young kid or whether they were an athlete or an adult, someone who wanted to compete. I wanted to take them back to that nostalgic thing. And when we take people back to their nostalgia, it gets them out of the moment for a second and they get to relive, like I've had so many people say, "Oh my God, I used to watch that with my dad." And that's us. The one time I got to see my dad on Saturday mornings. And I felt that again. I felt like my dad or my mom was there with me, or my buddies. We used to play this in the backyard, and I always wanted to kick your ass, Nitro, and now I see you're actually a nice guy. So that was super important too, to make the era seem like a character. But
you did a bang up job. The storytelling was incredible, and there were so many moving parts. There were so many paths that needed to be explored. So it was a big job. I felt like that could have been done poorly, but you did such a great job.
Well, I just laid the framework.
Yeah.
The directors, Jared Hess, who did Napoleon Dynamite, Nacho Libre, Shanghai Nights, all these wonderful movies, and who has a real genius for making things light and comedic. And then the other director is a guy named Tony Vainuku. He's won an Emmy for In Football We Trust, and he just did that excellent documentary last year about the football player Manti Te'o, who got catfished on Facebook.
Great. Yeah,
did you see that?
It. Yeah.
It was fantastic.
It was
and again,
so
it was on
good.
Netflix. Yeah, it was about the guy, he's a football player, Notre Dame 10 years ago. And he has this complete love affair for a year and a half in a relationship with a woman over Facebook. And in the end, he realizes on the night of the championship game that she did not exist. It's fantastic if you haven't seen it. So look, I just set the plate. These guys, along with the fellow gladiators, I couldn't have done it without them. These guys, they put it, they were fantastic. They were awesome. By no means did I do this. I just said, here's the story. Here's the idea. Here's the people. And these guys took it home. But last thing I want to say, I think, it was kind of sappy. And I was, pitching the directors and Netflix. I said this to them. I think Muscles and Mayhem, we didn't have that title at the time. It was just called American Gladiators documentary series. I think it's a love story. And they all looked at me like, what? I said, it's a story of love and acceptance and the need for change when we realize the emptiness of obtaining a false dream. Right? Because I had this belief that the ones that are hardest to love are the ones that need it the most. Right? And I can look back, Susie, on my life and see I was really hard to love, man. I was really, really hard to love. But like, again, when I found that happiness wasn't cured by success, that unhappiness wasn't cured by success, I knew I had to change. And I think the deeper element of the docuseries is, that we were all misfits, who were in a way looking for love and trying to find their place in the world, trying to find happiness and fulfillment. And I think everyone can relate to that, even if they didn't wear spandex. So
Right.
I think maybe that's why it resonated.
Yeah,
No?
it's true because you all seemed like the cool kids. You were the prom kings and the, what everyone wanted to be. And yet the documentary series kind of showed that everybody's a misfit toy. There's no such thing as just like a cool kid who's got it all together. Everybody has their own stuff. And so I think they did a really good job of showing that. But whenever I think about the section about the pay raise and wanting some of the merch revenue, and I think that same type of thing goes on with the challenge where you make like $3 and you're like sacrificing your body or whatever. And there's this sense of like, people think you should just be grateful. Like they would kill to be on a fun show like we were on. So can't you just take what you get and be happy? Did that feeling come across to you? Did people feel like, hey, quit your bitching? Like you should be glad.
No, it was exact opposite.
Oh, that's good.
People, so many people are like, I can't believe they did you dirty like that.
Okay, good.
I can't believe they wouldn't share. I think again, when like the Friends cast, right? They went and renegotiated for a bigger contract.
Yeah, as a collective unit.
Yeah, collective, and they got it. I think in the beginning, in any endeavor, it's like if you believe in something, it's like, hey, let's all get together, let's work our asses off, and I'm going to give you everything I got. Lori's going to give you everything she's got. We're going to bleed for you. We're going to sweat for you. We're going to break our bodies for you. But when this gets to be a success, let's share in it, right? Let's just share in this success. And then when you have the corporation saying, no, we're not going to share, it feels really shitty.
Yeah.
And that's when I left the show.
Weren't you angry, though, that there were people that didn't stick with the group, that were like, listen, I gotta feed my family, so I gotta keep working. I don't want to go on strike. You didn't mind.
Everybody's got to make the decision that's best for them at that time. Yeah. I do not like when people go back on the word. Your word is something of value. And then when you say, like, we're in this, and then, when it gets difficult, then you get out of it. I don't like that, but I don't resent anybody for anything. Mm-hmm. I had other offers coming in, from Warner Brothers to do movies and, in the latter years, like in year 3, when we did the tour, we were making good money on the road.
Yeah.
We toured 130 countries. So I was making good money. And even though, we were only making I think we were making at the end $1,000 an episode. So $26,000 for the year. Not a lot. We were also getting money for residuals because we were a union show. And, at that time I was like, oh, okay, great. But now I have a pension.
That's
so
great.
I don't look back with really any regrets at all. It was the reason we're talking here is it was the reason, we are the #1 show on Netflix. And, I think they told us, well, I think I read some research. They didn't tell us anything. I read some research that there were, in the first 10 days, 20 million hours watched.
How cool is that?
Well, so if you think about that, 20 million hours watched. If you broke that down into a 90-minute movie, means that movie would have grossed $125 million roughly on the first 10 days. Would have been a huge hit. So I have no regrets. It was such a glorious time. I wish they would have shared more.
That's the thing, man. I don't feel like they regret that, and they should. The people that were keeping the money and being stingy.
Well, Susie, the funny thing about success is everyone thinks they're the reason for the success. Do you know what I mean? Like, oh, we're successful. Like me saying, oh, this was successful because I did this. The directors, for the show, we're successful because we directed this. The Gladiators, each person's like, well, it's successful because of me. But the truth is, things are successful because of collaborative team effort, usually.
Right.
And I think the bigger the egos get, the more money there is at stake. Like for the producers of this show, it became like, no. We are the reason for the success. Yeah, not the gladiators. They're interchangeable. We can put anybody on.
Right. You're replaceable. That's the sort of tone, right?
Here's what I think.
Yeah.
This is my theory, and I want to know what you think.
I love a good theory.
I believe that if the producers would not have been so greedy, if the producers would have just been fair and paid us fairly and given us a piece of the merchandise, the main figures would still be on that show for a long run. And if you look at sports shows, football, basketball, baseball, they've been on the air for 40 years. You look at game shows, Wheel of Fortune, Jeopardy, 40 years. American Gladiators was the best of both. It was a sporting show and it was a competition show. And my belief is that it could still have been on the air all of these years for a 25-year run. Like Ninja Warrior's been on, 15, 17, 20 years? It could still be on the air today, Susie.
Totally.
If those
infuriates me.
If they just would have been fair. And you know why it's infuriating to me is not only would it have been fun to continue to play Nitro, but I think there were so many athletes out there who lost their chance at competing at a high level and getting some of that light shined on them and coming to Hollywood and winning $15,000, that they never got to experience that because of, the production's greed.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
I agree with you. Even our show's been on for 40 seasons, The Challenge, and it's basically the same as yours, except we suck more. But
and you guys are awesome. It's fun.
But
the challenge is fun. And you guys wear bikinis.
So. Yeah. You're otherworldly.
Did you feel weird wearing a bikini? Or is that
No, I didn't. This is the problem with us. We're like damaged. We have no problem sharing anything. It's not normal. But you people were actual.
Well, what do you mean? What do you mean? Let's go back to that. You have no problem sharing anything.
Yeah, like my co-host and I, Real World Road Rules, The Challenge. You just live your whole life without a filter. It's not ideal.
Why?
Well, because in social norms require, discernment and maturity. And that's not what is incentivized on the show. And they gave us unlimited alcohol and took away everything else. And filmed it.
Like, did people get like intimate, like sexy time? And
of course.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's basically porn.
And they film it?
Yes.
So you're having sexy time with somebody, and you
have a mic,
filming you,
and a crew, and
you know it. I mean, like actual, like full on intercourse, like penetration, and it's just happening, and you know it, and you don't care, and there's not you, but members don't care, and you're just being filmed.
That's right, Danny.
Wow, I feel clean.
See, you're not exposed at all. You felt dirty, and I have given you the gift of washing you clean.
Well, look, it was a different time. I have to say, if we would have had cell phones, then there would have been a lot of trouble. There'd have been a lot of trouble.
And you're young and attractive, and things happen.
Yeah, again, I was 22 to 29 years old, and as a much different man, than I am now, and I have a better understanding of, since going through therapy and working on becoming a better human. I have a much better understanding of what a monogamous committed relationship is, and I took a lot after my dad. My dad was a womanizer, prolific womanizer. I mean, 3 wives, and it's a long story. When I was 10, I'll tell you just a tad bit of it. When I was 10 years old, when I was 8 years old, my dad took my older brother and I, when he got custody of us, to Vietnam to live. He was living there in 72. So we were still at war right before the country fell. He took us over there, and we lived there for 2 years. My dad had a house of prostitution. So he had a restaurant that in Saigon, Vietnam, that catered to French dignitaries and Vietnamese dignitaries and officers, officers. And it started off as a restaurant and a bar. And then he put some blackjack tables upstairs. And then he brought in tea girls, which were the version of, I love you a long time. No. And so when I was 9, 10 years old, I grew up around a bunch of, female sex workers and befriended them. And, I think I got a warped sense of what normal was, and then my dad being that kind of guy who was partaking in the, with these women as well. And even as a grown man, we just was not faithful to my stepmother. And, he was broken in that way. And, I just thought that's what you did. That's what my dad did. I'd have girlfriends and I was unfaithful in my younger years. And that's what, doesn't everybody do that? And then you're shocked when someone doesn't. But then you can also see the pain you can cause somebody when you're not upfront with them about what your situation is. And I had this girlfriend in high school, and I just remember I broke up with her. And it was my senior year, and she was a fantastic girl, and we were like the it couple. And I just remember she was laying on the floor and she was weeping. And I just, because we broke up, and I just looked at her and I just didn't know what to do with that. I didn't understand. I'm like, well, why is she in pain? And it took me, a long time to understand the ramifications of your a human being's actions, and how we're all in this together, and kindness and gratitude and empathy and humility. It took me a long time to learn those things. But anyway, I'm off on a tangent.
No, that's so true though. And that's what I was saying about how the personal narratives of each of you were so compelling. You could have done a series about each one of you. And you're so blessed that you've been able to evolve and grow and learn. That is more than most, right? Most people kind of stick with them. The old dog stays the old dog, right?
Right.
And so I think that's really a powerful example that clearly people are appreciating, because that's why they're sliding in your DMs.
But the work is, as you know, the work is never done.
Ain't that the truth?
You know what I mean? I constantly, have a gratitude practice. I have a morning journaling practice. If you could see my bookshelves that's around here, it's mostly about personal development and continuing health and lifespan. But 90% of it is about personal development. It's a journey that you're just never done, man.
Yeah,
just
you're
so
never done.
In what makes us people tick. But I want to thank you.
Thank you. You're
for
the
having
best.
me come on today.
I adore you. I just
pontificate.
Yeah, I'm sorry I kept you too long, but you're a gem. Our listeners love you, and we love you, and I feel really honored. Oh, one last thing. We ask everybody, if you have a car, what do you keep in the trunk of your car?
I have a Tesla, so there's no trunk.
Oh, interesting.
So there's no trunk, but what I do keep in the car lately, last year and a half.
Yeah, what's in there?
It's going to sound very, very cliche, but pickleball.
Pickleball, sweeping the nation.
Well, I have a pickleball machine that actually is like a tennis ball machine that fires pickleballs.
You have got to be kidding me.
No, so I like to play with myself.
Don't we all?
I know that sounded kind of weird, but for me, it's like hitting a bucket of golf balls. So I just bring this machine out. I go to the Paseo Club, which is out here in Southern California, and when I have time, I just go hit the pickleball. Just get my mind off of life and focus on one thing.
See, mind, body, spirit. You got it all going on. I love it.
Oh, you're too kind. And I hope you guys enjoy Muscles and Mayhem. Again, it opened up #1 in the country and Netflix.
You must be thrilled.
If you guys, when you're doing books, I would love for you to consider the book that was spawned, Muscles and Mayhem. It's the first book, Gladiator, a true story of roids, rage, and redemption. It talks a lot about the stuff that we're talking about, having a dad like this, about growing up, about walking towards a place you want to belong, but with the backdrop of, the show of the American Gladiators. So it would be great if you did, but there's a lot of cuss words in there.
We can handle it.
There's a lot of sex in there.
I think I've already made it clear we can handle that.
Yeah, there's a lot of sex and there's a lot of escapades, but there is a redemption in the end.
That's right. So. That's what we love. That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, maybe check it out.
I'd
be honored to be in your book club.
Okay. I will. Thank you so much.
Cheers.
Have a great day.
Thank you.